when I had the opportunity to place historical state markers throughout the city of African Americans, the blue and gold markers. The first marker we established was at the Museum of Art. But what tears me apart, today it's known as the Rocky Steps. And the man who designed it, no one knows his name, Julian Abele, the first architect at the University of Pennsylvania School of Architecture. He designed the Free Library, the library at Harvard University, and about 4 or 5 buildings at Duke University. He's the man that we want to honor. It's not the Rocky Steps.
He was from Philadelphia. Went to school here and everything. He was African American.
And he worked for Horace Schrombauer. His son and his daughter was there. Both of them with tears in their eyes said, "We never thought our father would be honored." St. Thomas Episcopal Church was the second marker. Philadelphia has the largest marker program in the country. One of the favorite markers for me was the marker to honor Octavius Valentine Cato. Recently, his statue. I put the first marker up for him for his lodge back in 1990.
Octavius Valentine Cato was one of my favorite people.
I know about him. Turns out history, all that goes around comes around. We were a little boy in Norristown, but when we were called colored people, they had every year they had the annual colored parade by the Elks Home in Norristown. They had a parade of colored people. People would march the streets. And every now and then, they would invite other towns to come in, other lodges, the Elks Home Lodge. So who did they invite? The Octavius Valentine Cato Lodge to march in the Norristown color. So every time I was 10 years old, I knew who he was. And I had the opportunity, when I put the markers up, to establish a marker to honor him. So he was one of the first markers we put up. So when they did the statue, I already knew about him. He was a fantastic man who lost his life, the same way Dr. King lost his life. He was a brilliant scholar, athlete, and he died at a young age. Another situation I was involved with, they discovered in the 90s on Independence Mall, the remain of a place became known as the President House, where the house that was used by George Washington, John Adams later. Washington had enslaved Africans there, and the parties of the city wanted to preserve the house. They tore the house down in the 1830s. And then they wanted to rebuild it. I was against it. What group of people would ever rebuild a home or a place that enslaved their ancestors? I wanted to put a marker there at the site near the Liberty Bell, because you cannot go to the Independence Hall and forget the institution of enslavement. So I took money from my own pocket
2 years ago
and had a marker to create what they call Pennsylvania slave trade at the Seaport Museum in lower end of Philadelphia, where our people were brought in by the ocean. You go down there now, you'll see a marker to give the history of enslavement. It goes back to 1639. Even William Penn owned enslaved Africans. And the third marker was the baseball, colored baseball. When I had the opportunity of creating the Pennsylvania Black History Committee, where I went to every county of the state. I went to every county. I visited over the years, research. Then later we established wherever we would meet, whether Pittsburgh, Erie, Uniontown, whatever part of the state, we would have a marker. So not only in Philadelphia, but also throughout the state,